and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news. We are in the studio. That means it's live. So get your thoughts in the comments. Right, we've got a few things to talk about today. Some big news. Erik Ten Hag making his signings clear, or potential new signings. Rumours and journalists have been reporting on exactly who Erik Ten Hag wants to bring to Manchester United. Wayne Rooney's had his thoughts and had his say on Manchester United's current squad, who should be the manager next season, pretty much everything. So if you didn't see it last night, we'll go through some of those quotes. And there is also another Ajax player linked with Man United. Get used to this. If Erik Ten Hag becomes Man United's manager, bet your lives we're going to be linked with every single Ajax player under the sun. Some rightly, some wrongly. As we know with Van Gaal, we did get, a couple of players in that he knew from his past. We're same with Jose Mourinho bringing in Matic. This does tend to happen, so we can look forward to it. We're going to get it, and we may well get one of those players as well. Let's start with Wayne Rooney then. Obviously, arguably United's greatest player of this century. I would say United's greatest player this century, above Ronaldo, even in terms of his longevity. Obviously, United's top goal scorer, one of United's greatest ever players, let's be honest. He's been talking about Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Jesse Lingard, all of these sorts of things. He said that Jesse Lingard should be starting because he brings energy and quality. Right, okay, let's get into that. Man United legend Wayne Rooney has urged Manchester United's boss to keep faith with 4 players he believes will be important next season. United are currently enjoying a turbulent season. We don't need to know all this. Just get into the 4 players. That's what we do. We skip to the good stuff. Jadon Sancho is one of them who initially struggled to show his true quality before coming alive toward the latter part of the season, while Marcus Rashford is facing uncertainty after being benched in the last few games by Rangnick. Rooney tipped them both to improve next season and also backed midfielder Jesse Lingard to play more minutes, despite seemingly headed to the exit door on a free, whilst praising Scott McTominay. He said, they've got good young players. I think Jesse Lingard should be playing for them because he brings quality, energy. Scott McTominay's done well. Now, I think he's talking about 2 separate things there. They've got good young players. I think Jesse Lingard should be playing for them. Because what I would like to hope is that Wayne Rooney isn't falling into that social media trap of pretending to think Jesse Lingard is still a young player when he's, 28, 29 years old. I think he's talking about 2 different things there. So they do have some good players, he says. You just have to get some confidence and get them believing they're all good players and perform at the best level. And then, obviously, whoever the manager is, I'm sure he'll bring his own players and build that through. Exactly right. He also said, talking about Ronaldo and Paul Pogba, he says, I think the team needs younger, hungry players. I think it's probably got to a point where it's better for Paul Pogba to move on. He said, I think Paul, if he's honest with himself, he probably hasn't had the impact he would have liked since he returned to Manchester United. I watch him play for France and he's a completely different player. The ability, his vision, control of the game is there for every game for France. It just hasn't quite worked out for him at Manchester United. And then talking about Ronaldo, whether he has succeeded, he says, you'd have to say no. He scored important goals in the Champions League games early on in the season. He scored a hat-trick against Tottenham. But I think if you're looking for the future of the club, you have to go with younger, hungry players to do their best to lift Manchester United over these next 2 or 3 years. Now, it is unfortunate for Ronaldo to a certain extent. He was brought in to be the final piece of the jigsaw. Turns out the whole bottom half of the jigsaw had fallen off the table while no one was looking. So it didn't quite work out that way. Not really his fault, but I think Rooney's right that we maybe have to move on. Speaking of moving on, let's look at Erik Ten Hag because he seems to be the front runner for Manchester United. Laurie Whitwell was tweeting this morning about how everything they're hearing outside of the club is that Ten Hag is the front runner, that these meetings and these interviews have been held, and yet everything they're hearing from the club, the high place sources within the club, is that no decision has been made, and it's very much kind of a 2-horse race between him and Poch, both of which are likely candidates at this stage. I think what it seems to me is Ten Hag is the one that we've done the most with. We've chatted to him the most. We've spoken to him the most. And therefore, the assumption is, well, he must be further down the line. Well, just because he's had more interviews doesn't mean he's done better in those interviews. I think Pochettino's situation at PSG is slightly more closed, slightly more behind bars than Ten Hag's is. Ajax basically seems to be going, fucking just have him. Whatever. We can't keep hold of him. He's too good for us. You take him, give us a couple million quid, and we'll be happy. Whereas PSG, they've got a save face because they are one of the biggest clubs in Europe. At least that's the image they like to portray. So they can't really have their manager sort of, flying around Europe doing job interviews while they've still got a league to win. So I think that may be the only difference there. But this is very interesting, talking about Antony. Erik ten Hag has already identified his first transfer target should he be given the Manchester United job. The Ajax star Antony is top of the wish list. There's Antony right there. And that would indicate that Gary Neville was right all along. I don't know what that's got to do with anything. But he spoke about midfielders and attacking options a few weeks ago. But Antony's one of these players that Mike Verwijge, I think his name is, or I'm probably absolutely butchering that, but he's a Dutch journalist who's very reliable, spoken in recent days about Antony. And if anyone's seen him, anyone's looked at what he does, Antony, he's an incredibly skillful player. One of those players that has brilliant sort of balance, almost Sancho-esque in that kind of dummies and feints, but then he's got a lot more kind of actual skills about him, a lot of step-overs, a lot of sending players the wrong way, nutmegs, really close dribbler, really excellent, promising, exciting young player, 22 years old, Brazilian. This season in the league alone, he's got 8 goals and 4 assists in 23 appearances. Looks to be a very promising young player. His contract expires at the end of the 2025 season, so still 3 years left on that deal. May well obviously come with a decent fee, but he looks to be a very exciting player. And Mike Verwijge, again, who we're talking about there, very reliable Dutch journalist, said when asked about whether Ten Hag would bring Antony to Manchester United, he says he agrees with that. Very sort of coy, single-word response, but it seems to be Manchester United are interested in Antony, especially if Ten Hag comes in. Obviously, like I said, he's going to bring some of his own players in. That's what managers do. Managers bring in players that they know and like, and that makes sense. Everyone does that everywhere. So, I think it looks as though he's going to be a big transfer target this summer. He's an attacking player, a winger. Very good in terms of assisting, very good in terms of chance creation. Like I said, almost in that Sancho mould of, good dribbler, very good on the ball, great vision, likes to have his head up and play people in behind. Whoever United bring in as a striker is going to have some balls laid on a plate for them with Sancho, Bruno and Antony if we do sign him as well. So he looks to be a very exciting young player, 22 years old, as I said. And like I said, if he comes from Ajax, obviously Ten Hag knows what he brings, knows what he can do, and knows his potential. Let me know your thoughts of Antony in the comments. Do you know much about him? Have you watched much of Ajax this season? Obviously, I've seen highlights, I've seen clips, and I've watched data, people analysing the data of what he does. And he looks to be a very promising young player. But if you've been watching every single game of him this season, let me know your thoughts on him in the comments. Jamie Gillespie is talking about Timber. Yeah, we'll get to that story in just a minute. Another Ajax player there, not talking about just, Wood generally. Timber is a centre-back who we'll be talking about in just a minute. Andrew Smith says he's good on Football Manager. And you know what? I reckon sometimes United use that. I know that other lower league clubs tend to use Football Manager sometimes, don't they? Because the scouting network in Football Manager is supposedly brilliant. And I think smaller clubs who don't have great scouting networks actually often do use Football Manager to look at players, which is very interesting. Delicious. Right, plenty of timber in this squad. Yeah, very good stuff, His skills like Neymar, says King of 206. He does have a sort of, there is that Brazilian thing, which is why we're comparing the two, let's be honest. But he does have that really sort of silky, dribbling, skillful players. He is currently injured for the rest of the season, according to Matthew Sargent. But, when he comes back, he looks to be a very exciting player. Abhinav Verma says, all the pundits on Sky are paid to endorse Poch. They also say, also love how you guys are like Ten Hag is the manager. I'm not saying Ten Hag is the manager, and like I just said before, he seems to be the front runner at the moment. It is interesting to me that pretty much everyone on Sky wants Pochettino. Now, I'm not saying that there's some conspiracy going on here, but it has made me question things with Ten Hag a little bit, because you look at someone like Frank de Boer, who won 3 or 4 titles with Ajax and then came to the Premier League. Didn't really do anything, hasn't really done much since, has managed some clubs here and there, but never really, set the world alight and looked to be a real top manager from what he was doing in the Netherlands. It is such a different league. And there is part of me that thinks, whilst he's done well to rebuild the squad, whilst he's done well, to take this Ajax team consistently to top points finishers, low goals conceded, high goals scored, looking good in the Champions League, I get all of that. You're still winning the Dutch league with the most historically prolific and richest club in Netherlands. part of me is slightly concerned that can you do what you've done there with Manchester United, this sort of semi-fallen giant who still spends big, but everything above you is just an absolute fire, like circus on fire. Can you still do that? I don't know. The thing we do know about Pochettino is he can do it when everything above him is a circus on fire. You've got Daniel Levy, you've got new stadium, you've got, you're not allowed to buy any players. And over years and years and years, he did the right things with Tottenham, never quite got them over the line in terms of a trophy, which is obviously a huge negative for Poch. But I do kind of understand the admiration for him and the fact that you can say he knows what it's like to work in this league with this sort of, overview above him. We'll have to wait and see. I'm personally a Ten Hag fan. He's more exciting. He's got that momentum. But, it seems a lot of people do want Pochettino. Let's move on and talk about Jurrien Timber. He's a 20-year-old centre-back who plays for Ajax. He's been linked with Manchester United. Again, Mike Verweide yesterday tweeting and speaking about him. Basically, he looks to be another link to Manchester United. United are keen on him if Ten Hag signs for Manchester United. He's a 20-year-old centre-back, like I said, Dutch player, plays for Ajax. Looks to be a very promising young player. I'm doing a bit of research on him. It seems as though Ajax fans generally think that he's a very good player, very promising, very big future, maybe not quite ready for United's first team just yet. And obviously, there'll be jokes about he can get in ahead of Maguire, but he's got to get in ahead of Maguire, Lindelof and Varane, or at least alongside one of those two. So he looks to be a very promising young player. Could probably get him on a relatively cheap deal. Again, it all hinges on, does Ten Hag come to Manchester United? That's the question. That's the biggest question of all of this. Does Ten Hag come? Because you can bet your life if Pochettino comes, all of a sudden we're linked with a load of ex-Tottenham players and a load of ex-PSG players and maybe a couple of old Southampton players. If Ten Hag comes in, you're linked with every single Dutch player under the sun, and if they play for Ajax, well, that's even better. So it's interesting and it's exciting, and it's going to be a big summer for Manchester United one way or another. Man United are getting a new manager. Man United will be signing new players, and Timber looks to be someone that is on the radar for Manchester United and Ten Hag in particular. Get your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think to this young lad. He's only 20 years old, which is very, very young for a centre-back, especially in the Premier League. It's unlikely that he's going to come in and be a first-team player. Abe Parsons says, I want Timber. A lot of people enjoying the Timber. Oi, you're not Jay Motti, get off my telly. Well, Jay Motti's not here anymore. Jay Motti's left, so he can't be on the telly. Actually, he's not. He's just got his day off, but, it felt good to say that he's left. I don't know why. Sorry, Jay. Imagine a centre-back part... Bring Jay back. Says, imagine a centre-back pairing of Timber and Maguire. Some serious weight there. Yeah, put some real timber on this defence. That's what we need. We're too lightweight at the minute. Ross Murphy says, why don't we buy all of the Ajax players and call ourselves Ajax? I'm happy with that. Everyone else happy with that? Just Ajax 2.0? Oh, a bit close to Stephen House in there. Randon Lewis says, Joe, how much do you deadlift? Don't worry about how much I deadlift. I'm deadlifting Timber this morning, and that's really all that matters. Not him as a person. Anyway, that's gone weird. Someone says, pray to Jay in the comments. Yeah, sure. Hardyman says, is he even the manager yet? He's not the manager yet. He does seem to be on a second round of interviews, like he's getting a job at Argos or something. Come back in, do a trial shift. Let's see what happens. If you can get used to the system and the whole, catalogue that we use here at Argos, you can probably have the job. I wonder what those interviews are like. I'd love to see that. If everyone's as incompetent as it seems like they are at Manchester United, I bet some of the questions in that interview are hilarious. Hello, Erik. Question 1, are you going to win the league with Manchester United? He said no. Right, no, you don't get the job then. Oh, he said yes. Wow, you can have the job. That's brilliant. We haven't won the league in ages, so that's good. Just basic shit questions. Do you like football? Do you heard of Manchester United? Do you Old Trafford? No, that doesn't make sense. Do you know what Old Trafford means? Rubbish. Absolute shit. He just says yes to every single question and gets the job, like David Moyes did. Right. That's going to be all from me. Manchester United, like I said, linked with Antony, linked with Timber. Wayne Rooney thinks Jesse Lingard should be playing more minutes next season, and he probably will be, but not for Manchester United. Get your thoughts in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you aren't already, and make sure you hit that join button as well. Join the membership. You get extra videos, extra content, access to the members' exclusive chat, and discounts on merch as well, and loads more good stuff. You also get free entry to any of our giveaways that we tend to do here at Stretford Paddock, so hit the join button if you're feeling up to it. Thank you very much for joining. We'll see you in a bit.